Hi, welcome to This Week in Property. I'm Jayashri Kurup. I'm editor at MBTV. I have with me Prabhakar Sinha. He's the real estate editor of the Times of India. Subvention has been a very, very contentious issue in many of our shows. Whenever we discussed other things, the consumers picked up subvention and said, why should they have to pay for the subvention that a developer had promised to pay? We have discussing this very, very critical issue. We got a really heavyweight panel of lawyers who are out there active on behalf of consumers. And we felt that it was important that we should have somebody like this, a panel like this, to answer your queries. We have Sarvesh Sharma. He's the advocate of the State Consumer Commission of UP, who has recently got an order which was the trigger for this show. There is Kumar Mihir. He is advocate on record, Supreme Court. And there is Piyush Singh, who's the partner of PSP Legal. Thank you so much for joining me. Prabhakar, you want to set the tone for this?
Yeah, now look, this subvention scheme earlier when it was introduced, for some time now, it was to help both the developer as well as the consumer. The customer basically, when they used to buy a flat on subvention, that means they need not pay the EMI till the possession is given, and he has to pay the rent also during that period. So he was saved from paying rent and EMI together. And after when, now suppose one has bought it today and he has to get the possession of the flat in 3 years time, until then the EMI is to be paid by the developer, then his salary also would have increased in that 3 years time. So when his EMI was to come to pay, by then it was not that much burdensome also. At the same time, developer also gets the benefit. Now suppose in an apartment there are 200 apartments, and if the developer could sell those 200 apartments on the subvention scheme and 1 crore each, so they used to get 200 crore rupees at an interest rate of 8% or 9%. If he had to borrow that much money from the market, he would have got it for 22% to 24%. And from bank also, he would have got it from 16% or 18% interest rate. So they will also benefited by that. But unfortunately, what has happened that these developers defaulted on both. On this, they discontinued paying the EMI. At the same time, they didn't give possession of the house also. So now the buyers are in complete soup. Now they have to pay both EMI plus rent without getting the house also, whereas his entire planning to buy that house was on the basis of that he will have to pay only one, either the rent or the EMI, and he will get the house. Problem is this, that, and what developer, I think they thought that one individual buyer cannot go to the court because justice is very costly in this country. If you go to the court, means you'll have to hire a lawyer, and sorry to say, he'll have to pay again hundred thousands of rupees or God knows how much to hire one lawyer to file a case, and then again to wait another 5 years to get the justice.
So let's go to Sarvesh. Sarvesh has come up with an order which seem to spell hope to consumers. And each of these lawyers on this panel are actually addressing these subvention issues, are experts in this field. So Sarvesh, can you start with what was the case and what is the order that you got?
See, ma'am, what happened that it was the matter pertaining to subvention. Now, I filed the case against the builder and bank both, because unless and until there is an MAU. MAU means there are two players in this in this entire episode. That is the bank as well as the builder. They are under the corporate agency arrangement. They say that I am going to finance a project, and internally they agree that yes, these are the blocks and this is to be done, and this is the subvention period.
Right.
Now the buyers, they are not aware that they are under the corporate agency arrangement unless and until, because National Housing Bank has also issued a circulars that the financial institution should not release the money upfront. That is, you cannot release the money to the builder straight away, and it has to be released in tranches. That is as per the construction of the apartments. Now, presume the builder has only constructed the first floor. Then only 10%, 20% money is to be remitted by the financial institution. Whereas what is happening in this scenario, they used to remit the entire money upfront to the builder.
Yeah.
And builder, instead of putting the money to complete the project, they used to divert the money to purchase another land or another
So
whatsoever.
Sarvesh, talk about the order, right?
The
Talk
order,
about this
what
case.
the order of the state commission. I filed the case. I prayed before the commission that my case may be decided finally.
Yeah.
Now, what the builder has started after filing the written version, the builder has started taking adjournments after adjournments. Now, my client, he is to pay regular EMI to the bank, and bank has paid the money to the builder in contravention of the circulars of the National Housing Bank and all the other authorities. So I moved an application of interim relief saying that during the pendency of the complaint case, at least I may be protected, that I may be saved from not paying the EMI to the bank.
Yeah.
So the court appreciated this argument, and now the court has directed that no, during the pendency of the complaint case, you should not, the entire consumers or the entire lotteries should not be burdened of paying the monthly EMI. Unless the final verdict is passed. And one more interesting thing is that in this order, the court has also given liberty to the bank to recover the EMI from the builder.
Okay.
Now, liberty is given to the bank. You recover the EMI from the bank?
Yeah.
From the builder?
It's a binding contract between a builder and a buyer, and the bank is also part of it. Now, the fact is that the consumers are saying it's a contract. Why should it not be met? What has been the stand of the Supreme Court?
See, in Amrapali, what they are trying to do is to decide it on a policy level. Okay.
Yeah.
So they have roped in Reserve Bank of India. Reserve Bank has appointed a nodal officer. The nodal officer has been organizing meetings with members of Indian Bank Association. In Amrapali, we had filed an application in 2018 when Amrapali promoters were still around. The promote saying that the court should give some sort of a reprieve to the buyers who have booked their houses in subvention plan. The builder responded to that application and admitted their liability, saying that yes, it is our responsibility. We have not paid it. We are offering our assets which can be sold and the bank dues can be paid. Then the builders went inside behind bars. Whatever assets they have are now being utilized to raise money for construction. So the people who have bought their houses under the subvention plan are still hanging around or even still in lurch. They don't know where to go. Now, because the receiver has raised this issue and RBI has been involved, we are trying to sort out, at a policy level, what to do with these buyers. Because see, banks are saying, and they have filed their response to the receiver's note, like we discussed in one of your earlier programs. So banks have filed their response, and banks are saying that they are bound under the regulatory measures of RBI. They can't not take steps against defaulting buyers, because ultimately the responsibility to pay the EMI. The ultimate responsibility is on the buyers. Even if the builder has defaulted, it is the buyer's responsibility they'll go and recover it from the buyer.
Piyush, you have represented the Supertech buyers for one of the issues that you have raised is the subvention scheme, right? Help us understand what your prayer has been.
Jayashree, subvention scheme, which we had tried to we had approached the Delhi High Court in that matter for Supertech associations, two of the Supertech associations. And the primary relief which we are claiming is that all these subvention schemes, till the possession is given to the allottees, till in the meantime, the EMI burden should always be with the builder, irrespective what was the time frame in the different MOU. So every MOU was different. Every tripartite agreement between the builder, bank, and the customer or the borrower was very different.
Yeah.
So the time period usually was 18 months, 24 months, or in some agreement till the date of possession. So we have sought that blanket provision or blanket order from the High Court, because in this case, as we have discussed last time also, Jayashree, one thing we need to analyze is that banks do not have their own money. So this is public money which is with the banks. So somebody has to pay the EMI. So it has to be either the borrower or the builder.
Yeah.
So what we are requesting with the court, the Honorable High Court, to intervene that in this case where the default is done by the builder in offering delayed possession to the buyers. So for this default, the builder should be responsible for paying the EMI. That is number one. Number two, we have sought regulations. We have sought the High Court to frame regulations because time and again, RBI had certain times had some notifications, had some certain guidelines, but throughout, RBI has not taken any stringent action against any of these banks which have violated all these provisions. So let me highlight, Jayashree, from 2005, RBI has been highlighting that all these innovative banking schemes. Now, what are these innovative banking schemes? Assured return schemes, the subvention schemes. All these schemes have to be very carefully looked into, and no direct disbursal or upfront disbursal should happen to the borrower. Now, all these cases which we are dealing with, so we as lawyers, or I would say the clients or the board or the home buyers are dealing with, in all these cases, direct disbursals have happened from the bank to the builder.
Yes.
So this is not a small anomaly, I would say. It is, I would say, a huge inconsistency of law. Secondly, it's a huge illegality.
I want to raise 2 points here. First of all, the entire money, the loan is given on the basis of tripartite agreement. Bank is also a party, and bank is supposed to monitor the construction work also, and on the basis of that, they are supposed to release the fund. But interestingly, as Mr. Piyush Singh also said, that it is the public money and bank is working like a trustee. But that doesn't mean that they should be allowed to go scot-free. Ultimately, their chairman or their senior official must be held responsible for this, that if this sort of thing has happened, they should be held liable for that. And the court, I believe now here, because RBI always works for the bank. They think that, okay, they would like to protect the bank. Government is dependent on RBI. Government will never go against the bank. But here, our legal system at least should hold these banks responsible and say, because you have entered into a tripartite agreement, and then you must take responsibility. And so the recovery of the money, now you will have to find out your source. They should have tried to keep some other kind of asset with the developers when they are giving loan to the developer on behalf of buyer, of course, but then some other asset they should have taken as a collateral. If they are not taking as the collateral, it is their problem, number one. Number two, remember, in the insurance sector, now, the health insurance particularly, now health insurance, they go to the hospital and they fix the price of, say, heart surgery or of anything. Earlier, hospital used to charge 10 lakh rupees, 5 lakh rupees. Now, insurance companies ask them that, no, this is not the cost, so you bring it down, and they have brought it down to 2.5 lakh or something like that. Now, here in this case, now how much money should be released on the construction linked money to the developer? Bank can decide, because ultimately it is the bank who is releasing the fund. But bank basically, let me tell you here upfront, that they are working in cahoot with these developers, particularly bank managers, and so they release the fund in advance. Otherwise, they could have asked them, no boss, because the entire cost of construction, 50% is after the structure is completed, required to complete the entire other aspects. So I will release you fund accordingly. But banks are basically very, very eager to release the fund on behalf of buyers to these developers so that money could be siphoned off. Let me tell you, that's how they are working. But unfortunately, these banks go completely scot-free because they are sacred cow, because they are the trustee of the public money. And because they are trustee of the public money, so nobody can touch them, despite the fact that they do all sort of things. Right. This is the unfortunate situation.
Absolutely. And this is the issue. Yeah, Sarvesh, you want to say something?
That is what I have pleaded in the court. Now, what Prabhakar ji is saying, that under the tripartite agreement, nothing has been taken as security, and the unit which has been financed, it is secured by the bank. Bank has the first charge and the lien on the property.
Yeah.
So why should I pay? In case I am seeking refund, the bank can go and easily sell out that property and recover it from the builder. That is what I have pleaded in my before the State Consumer Commission.
Sure. I'm going to come to that point because that is an important point.
Yes, under the tripartite agreement, what they say you cannot provide the possession to the consumer unless you seek prior consent of the bank.
Yeah.
You cannot sell out the property. You cannot execute the deed without the prior consent of the bank. Meaning thereby, the agreement is the one-sided agreement. They are on the dominant position, and they used to draft this unilateral agreement saying that we will monitor the scheme, we will call the progress report, and we will release the loan in tranches that is in shape of construction link plan. And that what the circular of the National Housing Bank says,
Yeah.
that you should not release the entire loan upfront. And that is not, the consumers are not aware of this. And
Right.
what they used to do, the property is the charge, the first and exclusive charge of the property is that of the bank.
Right.
So that is what has been observed by the court, by the State Consumer Commission, that why the consumer should pay. Under the tripartite agreement, you have discharged your liability. I say that I am not interested in continuing with the allotment. This is your property. You have remitted the loan. You sell out this property and you take back your money. Why should I pay the EMI? That is the analogy which I have placed before the court. And that is the order which has been passed.
That's
Sure.
very fair.
Yeah,
Yes.
that and here I'm going to pick up one of the queries that a consumer has put. His name is Pramod Joshi. He says the court has given the decision for return of money to buyer within 8 weeks, but he didn't. Now we are filing execution case. Can you tell us how much time it takes to take a decision on it? I am also a subvention customer to a builder in Gurgaon. He has this is with the NCDRC. Now he's followed it up with a question, and this is directly to you, Piyush. I have a question to the PSP legal representative on how much time does one take to get the decision on the execution case against builder for not following the NCDRC decision for return of money. Now there are two issues. It's not a one person's issue. What I want you to comment on two things. One is that the NCDRC is a forum who has the execution powers, right?
Right.
This has to be executed, but it's not being executed. The second thing is that if the court says that you can recover it from the developer, will that stall the project? That has been the large issue that we have been discussing. If consumers who want their money back, and if the bank goes back to the developer and says start paying the money, if the developer pays money on behalf of the consumers, where does the money to complete the project come from?
Jayashree, to answer the first question, whether the NCDRC, no, it's not only NCDRC, every court has execution powers. So a judgment power.
Except perhaps RERA. RERA executions are much more stalled.
It takes times because see, like a civil court, be it RERA or be it a consumer court also for that matter, under section 25 in the previous Consumer Protection Act, the way of execution was always by attaching the property or a recovery certificate used to be issued.
Yeah.
Now the difficulty which was there in the recovery certificates was that the property or the specific recovery certificate is issued to the SDM concerned or the Tehsildar or the DM of that area to execute the recovery certificate. So by our experience, RERA's RCs or recovery certificates take a slightly more time to get executed because of the multiplicity of litigation at times. NCDRC, now if I have to answer that question, how much time it takes, by our experience, it is around 4 to 6 months. So the execution can be completed in 4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
So there have been courts. Now again, in NCDRC, for instance, there are 6 courts. So it all depends on a procedural basis of each court. Now there are court in NCDRC on the very first date that summon the directors. Now we as a practice, now I will also advise that particular buyer that we as a practice have that we also move a section 27 application. That not only recovery certificate, that directors should also be summoned to the court because there is also civil imprisonment as a part of execution. So in case that is done, then the execution happens much more faster.
Okay.
So execution is always a strategy rather than only going for recovery certificate. People should also go for execution against the directors.
Sure.
And there is also a judgment, very recent judgment of the full bench of NCDRC, that even though you have got a judgment against a real estate company and you never made the directors to be a party, still at that point of time when you gave the money, whoever was the promoter and director in charge, in execution proceedings you can make them to be a party for civil imprisonment. So that can be a very effective tool, and we have found that to be a very effective tool for people in getting their orders executed. So that's number one. Of course, in COVID times it's taking slightly longer, but in case I have to give a time frame, it's 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
Jayashree, with respect to the second question, that what will happen to the project in case people seek refund or those refund orders are actually executed? See, Jayashree, we need to understand one thing, that how many people actually are going for refund, number one. Number two, that in case builder has delayed the project or maybe has utilized that money for the project. Now, in case of the buyers I would say, a requirement of a unit or a flat is frustrated. And I would say those 5 to 10% buyers are actually looking for refund. So should they be stopped from seeking refund? Now, if that logic is applied, that a buyer cannot be held or cannot be given the right to take refund, I would say the complete jurisprudence of every legal basis goes away. Because now, even I would say 5 or 10% buyers in a project, they seek refund. The builder, when he's completing a project, most of the time they always have the bandwidth of 5 to 10 because there's a profit making what they're doing. In case they would not have diverted money, those projects would have been completed on time. And in case somebody would have seeking refund, they would have also given refund and that money would have been sold to somebody else.
Mihir, how take both sides. I mean, I do understand what the position of the court is, and I do understand, but take both sides and tell consumers how they should be tackling this.
Okay, see, comparing Amrapali with any other real estate project will be really unfair, because in any other real estate project, you have a builder.
Yeah.
Right. You have a builder who's trying to raise funds. And as Piyush said, he has a bandwidth of 5% or 2% or 1% of people who may want refund or who are in urgent need of refund.
Yeah.
But you have an entity who is going to manage everything.
Yeah.
Amrapali is not like that.
Yeah.
In Amrapali's case, what you are dealing with is the court itself. There is no builder. Right, builder, all the promoters are behind bar. All their rights have been taken over by the court itself. All the leases are now vesting in the court receiver, who's no one but an officer of the court. So comparing Amrapali with any other real estate project will not be unfair. That is my first statement. Second, in Amrapali, you see, there are several competing claims. You have Noida Authority or Greater Noida Authority. Their claim is about 5,300 crores just for the land and the interest on that land itself. Then you have banks who have given project finance to Amrapali Group for about 800 to 1,000 crore rupees. And then you have buyers who have paid about 8,000 to 9,000 crore rupees, or maybe a little more. So you have three competing claims. Right. Now, who should get the money first? Now, in Amrapali, Supreme Court, in a detailed judgment, the judgment of 23rd July, has legally decided that buyers have the best, or buyers' claim should be given the first priority. And in order to secure the buyer's claim, for the first time anywhere in the world, a constitutional court has taken over the mandate of completing the projects on its own. Now, in that scenario, you need to understand, Supreme Court is trying its best to raise funds from wherever possible. And this project is grossly delayed. The first project was launched way back in 2006, 2007. So almost 13, 14 years. Now, if Supreme Court is trying to raise funds from wherever possible, if someone comes and seeks refund and refund is granted, now the first thing is they'll have to seek refund from the court, and no one else can grant them refund. Second is, if court realizes that if the refund is granted to one set of people, floodgates will open and there will be a larger number of people who will come and try and seek refund. And it is for this reason, if you see, for last 6 months, every second hearing, the group of people who file applications for refund, the bench has been repeatedly rejecting their applications, saying this, that we can't allow any refund in this project. Now, so once Supreme Court has rejected this, the debate rests there. See, there was in September, there was a group of about 50 buyers who filed an application for refund. Supreme Court rejected it. The last hearing, some other two buyers filed an application for refund. Supreme Court has rejected it. So Amrapali's case is a little different, where you have someone who with a commercial mindset who's trying to do a business. In Amrapali, Supreme Court has just taken it as a social method or social measure to complete these projects to secure the investment made by the buyer. So in that sense, at least till now, Supreme Court is not entertaining any request for refund in Amrapali.
But the Supreme Court has allowed consumers. I mean, this time
Yes.
it is an extraordinary case, but the Supreme Court has allowed consumers to actually find other buyers and sell
Yes.
it off and given the permission to do that. So
Yes,
if
that
you
they
are-
have. That they have.
if you are in an
See-
Amrapali case and you don't want to continue, if you find another buyer, you can actually sell it to the buyer, right?
That's true. That's true. In fact, Supreme Court is the only case in the entire country where even before paying land dues, Supreme Court is allowing registrations to happen. No other builder has been able to do that, right? You first have to clear the land dues of the authority, only then your registrations will happen.
Yeah.
In Supreme Court, in Amrapali, Supreme Court is saying that if you are staying in a project, if your house has been given to you, irrespective of the fact that the builder has not paid the land dues to the authority will go ahead and register or sign the tripartite deed in your favor. So title documents will be registered. So Supreme Court is trying its best to help the buyers, but refund is not one of the measures so far undertaken by the court.
And this is why I did want to raise it, because I don't think the Supreme Court is mindless about the problems of the consumer. And I think what the Supreme Court is trying to do is, within that very tight framework where you do need money to, there are about 12,000 construction workers working on the projects, 19 projects. You do need money coming in regularly if the project pace has to be kept. And for that, they have allowed consumers to say that you can sell the unit legally, even if it is not registered, which otherwise you can't do. And that's what I wanted to raise. There is another issue that I would like you guys to answer, and this has come from Maya Parmeshwaran. She's put 2 questions. I'd like to put it to the panel. One is that what relief is provided to consumers if the builder denies the payment of pre-EMI despite the contract terms? This is the first one, and this is what we have been discussing. But she has followed it up with another question, which I think is very interesting. The consumer may agree to pay the pre-EMIs provided there is good progress on the project. What happens if there's no progress and still there are pre-EMIs demand from the consumer? What is the bank's validation on the progress of the project? Are consumers always to pay the price? A fair point, and I would like each of you to actually answer this. Sarvesh, would you like to answer first?
Jayashree, I would like to say that firstly, the consumer should not pay pre-EMI after the subvention period. It is my personal view that after the subvention period, in case you see that the project, you are supposing that the project is likely to take further years to be completed, the consumer should not go and pay pre-EMIs. Presuming that on the assurances that the interest in the pre-EMI or the pre-EMI which you are going to deposit will be refunded by the builder later on, the consumer start paying the pre-EMI, and despite of this, the construction work is not being accomplished by the builder as promised. So that is what has been dealt in the order which I provided and which the State Consumer Commission has granted, that no EMI is to be paid by the consumer and the entire EMI shall be paid by the builder to the bank. Why should the consumer bear the brunt of paying the EMI once I have been deprived of the possession after the subvention period? Because subvention is the scheme which is opted by the consumer considering her own residential needs and taking into consideration their financial status. Presuming
I've got a follow-up question from Maya, maybe because you're saying this, I'd like you to address this. If the consumer stops paying pre-EMIs, can the bank attach any other property or asset of the home buyer to recover the loan, as the property for which the loan was borrowed is not constructed? Very fair point, very big issue. Will the bank move in and attach other properties of the consumer?
See, the properties, since it has not been, there is no equitable mortgage. Unless there is an equitable mortgage, there is a charge on the property. They cannot go and say that your property is being attached. But yes, they can proceed under the law for recovery of the loan or recovery of the dues under the relevant laws that are that Securitization Act and the other acts. They can go there, but they cannot attach your property saying that yes, this was the mortgage property, and since you are not paying the EMI, I will attach the property. Sir.
Two things
Okay,
here.
Piyush,
I just want to raise a 2 point here.
I thought you would want to step.
Yeah. Now, first point, that now suppose in the contract, if the subvention was only for 2 years or 3 years.
Yeah.
And this situation has arisen after that 3 years period has been elapsed. Now, what will the developer, the buyer should do?
Yeah.
Should buyer not start paying the EMI? Number one. Number two, now in the DRT, in most of the time, as soon as bank moves, they get the judgment in their favor to attach the borrower's other property also. Now, where is the reprieve? Where the buyer will go in that situation then?
Yes. And Piyush, I'm going to take it to you. Why don't you answer this?
Jayashree, definitely, as what has been pointed out, the buyer cannot opt to, I would say, with all humility, the only reason the buyer cannot default on the bank EMI is, unfortunately, the banking institutions, or I would say the way the system was designed, they have been given very wide powers to proceed against the defaulters. So if the defaulter is a builder or as a buyer, the banks have the mandate to proceed very effectively.
Yeah.
Now, in most of these cases, the buyers have already given a post-dated checks, which they do not realize. When these agreements are signed, many buyers have given a blank post-dated checks to the banks as a security. So that is one. So these are proceedings under 138, quasi-criminal remedy. Number two, when the DRT proceeding is under Sarfazi Act, bank proceeds, on the very first date of hearing, the RO or PO ask for an affidavit of disclosure of all assets from the borrower. So even though the secured asset, as Mr. Sarvesh has pointed, was only the flat which was under construction. But the point is, all the assets of the borrower he has to disclose, and on the very first date of hearing, they give an interim order that he cannot create any third-party rights on all his movable and immovable properties.
Yeah.
So
Now, one more point here, Piyushji, in this entire situation, buyer gives the personal guarantee when by taking the loan from the bank, whereas developer doesn't give the personal guarantee. It is the corporate entity which is taking the loans. So at the most, the corporate entity will go away, not the corporate's personal wealth. But here in this case, buyer's personal wealth will also go away. So that is the problem in our banking system.
I would always advise it to be called profile funding cases, not subvention schemes, Jayashree ji. These are purely, as Mr. Sinha has also pointed out, these should be actually called, because your channel is also medium to create awareness amongst people. Now, I'll tell you very interesting instances. When client come to us and they say, sir, we want a refund of our money, हमने इस फ्लैट में इन्वेस्ट किया है. हमने कहा कितना पैसा लगाया तुमने फ्लैट में? कह रहे सर 10 लाख. मैंने कहा फ्लैट कितने का था? वो कहते सर 80 लाख का. मैंने कहा बाकी पैसा? क्या सर बाकी पैसा तो बैंक ने दिया है. So they do not realize that what bank has given, the bank has given their care. So I'm telling you, not of one case, even educated clients, they are thinking that what they've given from their own pocket is the money which builder owes to them. Bank will bank karta rahega.
Jayashree, there is a big nexus here. You know what do they do? The developer basically, they know some, say 30, 40 people. They approach them. They say that, okay, I want to borrow money from the bank. You just take the house and you give me 10 lakh rupees. I will return you 15 lakh rupees after 2 years or 3 years. And after you just sign this paper, rest everything will be taken care of and you should not worry. So the buyer thinks, and the developer gets loan at the rate of 8%. Whereas buyers thinks that he will get the money 50% more after 2 years. So 50% return in 2 years. So he get into the trap. He doesn't realize that when he's signing the paper, he's signing the paper to borrow the rest of the 80 lakh of rupees. And that is his liability that he never, and this is a big nexus going on.
Yes. And the whole purpose of doing this show is so that consumers understand the ins and outs of this. Mihir, there is one consumer who says, what should any buyer do when bank files DRT against the buyer? Can the bank touch his personal assets? Our builder is Idea Builder. Now, it's not about any one builder, but when the DRT moves, then the consumer is helpless, right? You have to pay.
Yeah, see, as Piyush said, once the bank approaches DRT, the presiding officer will ask the buyer to come and file an affidavit disclosing all his assets. So they are aware. Normally, SARFAESI, as Sarveshji also pointed out, SARFAESI only ask for attachment. Normally, they go ahead and ask for attachment of the property which was mortgaged. But again, as Piyush said, the buyer would have given unsigned, blank checks, signed blank checks. So the banks, what they do is they put the entire amount, they present those checks in bank in for payment, and which obviously get dishonored. And then 138 cases are filed against the defaulting buyers.
Right.
So it's a big problem that you have. Normally, uh, if a buyer is asked to take over the pre-possession EMIs because of the builder's inability to pay, it indicates that the builder is in financial trouble. And if he's in a financial trouble, Piyush will agree with me, hopefully, that the builder is facing uncertain times, and that property most likely will go under insolvency. Right, because that the only reason builder is asking you to take over the pre-AMI is because he doesn't have money, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And especially for projects which are delayed, right? So there is already a default.
Mhm.
So the buyer should preempt any delay. I mean, any action against him. He should take whatever legal course available to him, whether he should go to consumer courts or join a group and now go under insolvency. But he should take action. You can't wait for banks or buyer or the builder to commit a default or take action against you,
Exactly.
because
Which means
then
that
you
you
are
can't just
receiving
stop.
end.
Which means that you can't just stop paying. You
No.
have to take positive action, right?
Right.
Of course, you have to take positive action, because if you just wait for things to improve on their own, that is not going to happen.
Okay. Now, another query that has come up is which legal forums should buyers go to in case the subvention scheme contract is not complied by the developer? Now, this is where, Sarvesh, first of all, I think you went to the Consumer Redressal Forum. Right?
Best court is the consumer court. In my view, the consumer court is the best court, where you can ask for the entire. So the cases which I have filed, I have claimed that the entire PDC checks may be returned to me.
Yeah.
The EMI should be borne by the builder, not by the consumer.
Yeah.
The entire money which I have paid, I should be refunded along with interest. And the entire money which has been remitted by the bank to the builder may be ordered to be refunded along with up-to-date interest. That is the interest which the loan amount will bear. The entire money is to be refunded. So accounts is to be settled.
Yeah.
And that's what I provide the opinion to all the consumers also, that without there being any order of the court to restrain the builder to a bank to collect the EMI, we should not stop the EMI. That I already communicated to all the my clients, and I have also assured all my clients that you should file the case before the bank issues any notice under the SARFAESI or moves to DRT. Because once the bank moves to DRT or SARFAESI, the jurisdiction of other courts is to barred.
Sure.
So either you go consumer forum. Consumer forum is the best court, because RERA is the regulatory authority. It will regulate the entire real estate. But the consumer forum is the adjudicatory authority, where your grievances will be adjudicated. You will be compensated. You will be provided the adequate compensation of the loss of the property and other things. So consumer forum is the best court.
So
In
if
my-
now one thing, if the case is before the NCDRC, does it mean that bank can't go to this DRT under SARFAESI?
No. They can go. But the jurisdiction of the consumer forum will be attracted. The NCDRC can pass the order. But in case before filing before the NCDRC, the bank invokes the jurisdiction of DRT, or
Then you can't go to.
then
you can't go to
the consumer
SARFAESI.
cannot invoke on the same subject matter. The consumer cannot go to the consumer forum saying that yes, these reliefs may be granted to me.
And actually the thing is that when it is I just want to withdraw from the project, I don't want this project, I want to withdraw, Sarvesh says go to the NCDRC, ask for all the money back. But there is a
Yes,
large number of
and
consumers,
ma'am,
like
I just have to, I
Yeah.
just wanted to add, So Prabhakar, so you can even ask for interim order like Sarveshji got against the bank if
Okay.
you approach before the banks initiate an action against.
Okay, asking that till the order comes, there should be no no action against me.
No recovery of EMI.
No recovery. Yeah, right. Now there is another. If from what I can understand from Maya Parmeshwaran's question, they are willing and able to pay their EMIs if the work is happening on the ground. Is there some court that I can go to and say, look, my EMIs are not being paid. There's no work on the ground. I want work to start, and I'm willing to pay the EMIs if the work will start. Where should the consumer go?
Again, they can approach the consumer forum.
Okay.
That's
Consumer
what
forum
I said.
cannot get work restarted.
Yeah.
No. They can go to the consumer court. They can claim the possession also. Consumer forum is not meant only for refund. They
But
can claim possession.
But sir, they cannot force developer to
They
go and
cannot.
work on the ground.
Yes.
No,
Piyush, you want to take
No,
this?
no.
Actually, in such cases, when I would say extraordinary powers have to be exercised,
Yeah.
what Mihir had tried with Amarpali, I would say it's always best to have constitutional courts come into picture. So it's be the High Courts or Supreme Court. So now Supreme Court, especially after Amarpali, JP and Unitech, is very, I would say, in very limited cases, they're directly interfering into a real estate project. So after these three big
Extremely
projects,
reluctant. Extremely
Correct.
reluctant is the
Yeah. They will not accept
you're
it.
looking
So
for.
now Supreme Court has got really wary because they have realized now it may become home rather than Supreme Court, it will become a home buyer's court. So now, but then they are what they are doing, they're delegating, or I would say relegating these matters. So in case anyone directly goes to the Supreme Court, they are relegating those to the High Courts. And by our experience, the Delhi High Court, Mumbai High Court, for that matter, the Karnataka High Court.
But why not to
Chandigarh
RERA? Why not to RERA, sir?
RERA has definitely, but the only problem with RERA comes now. I'll give you one example with Haryana RERA especially. Now, when RERA was actually formulated or came into presence, you would always hear there were two RERA authorities which were very proactive. One was Maharashtra RERA, that the very first month in 2017, when it was established, it used to issue orders and it was very proactive. So Maharashtra RERA, and then it was Khandelwal Saab from Gurgaon RERA.
Yeah.
But with respect to some new rules being formulated and those rules being challenged before the Chandigarh High Court, then re-sent by the commission or by the executive committee, reframed. So there was a dispute with respect to the powers of AO and RERA. And now again, they're being challenged and the Supreme Court has again stated. So unfortunately, RERA is a very new act. 2016, it came into presence. And right now, people or the courts for that matter do not have enough confidence in it because all the RERA officers are ex-bureaucrats at the end of the day. So I would say by our experience, most of the constitutional courts right now are very closely supervising that how they're going to look into a revival project. But otherwise, if I have to answer the query whether RERA can do it, very well within the framework, RERA has the power to take over a project. And even RERA can direct an AOA, Association of Allottees, to take over a project and complete it. So which are very wide powers. But the only difficulty which RERA faces is, which was also discussed in Pioneer Urban case, that RERA does not have any power over banks. Now, in a very recent judgment, Gurgaon RERA again tried to have an order against Supertech and Punjab National Finance Limited, PNB Finance, stating that even the banking institutions will be held responsible to a certain extent. But the regulatory framework, and when you're going to compare the RERA's power to a constitutional court, are very limited. So RERA can direct a bank, but how far those orders would be applicable or complied with, and definitely those can be challenged before appellate authority and High Court. So that is one of the major concerns. Secondly, RERA has three forums against which an appeal can lie: appellate authority, then the High Court and the Supreme Court. So मान लीजिए आपने एक order ले भी लिया RERA से, there's a probability builder आपको अटकाने के लिए दोबारा वहां से stay ले ले. So constitutional courts, if I have to answer a question, मान लीजिए a project is stuck and which involves the right of hundreds or thousands of home buyers, definitely the constitutional court like a high courts can intervene in the respective states.
नहीं, लेकिन कोर्ट कैसे इंटरवीन करेगा? कम से कम रेरा तो ये बोलेगा एओए को कि चलिए आप प्रोजेक्ट ले लीजिए और आप कंस्ट्रक्शन करवाइए, बट हाई कोर्ट तो ये नहीं करवा सकता. हाई कोर्ट तो बोलेगा डेवलपर को बुला के चलो आप कंस्ट्रक्शन करो, या क्या करेगा? या तो सब बढ़िया कि एनसीडी उसमें चला जाए, एनसीएलटी चला जाए.
देखिए नाउ देयर आर टू, जो तीनों केसेस हैं आप उनके ऊपर आई वुड से वी कैन डू अ डिफरेंट सेशंस. नाउ आप यूनिटेक का देखेंगे, यूनिटेक में डायरेक्टर्स वर अरेस्टेड And while the directors were in custody, Supreme Court took a suo motu cognizance, supervised everything. They appointed
वो
an
तो exceptional situation था sir, वैसा तो नहीं होगा.
I'm just giving three different cases.
Yeah,
So, secondly, was what you are giving an example of NCLT. JP Infratech went into insolvency. Supreme Court took back the matter in a PIL and stated that we are going to look into the insolvency. They condoned the complete 270-day period, collected, they got 700 crores to be paid by JAL, and gave that matter back to Allahabad NCLT, created an interim formula wherein NBCC or Suraksha could come in. So, again, that is the policy number 2. Policy number 3, which what happened with Amrapali. Supreme Court completely supervised it. So the same things what the Supreme Court has done in these 3 matters, in any of these 3 of the things, be it through the NCLT forum, High Court can very well supervise it.
Will I'm going to take this
Right.
back to Mihir.
Just-
Will the Supreme Court
Sorry.
start taking case after case like this? Because JP, Amrapali, and Unitech were roughly 1.5 lakh houses, right? And that's why the sheer volume, and it was very early on. There was no solution coming up anywhere. Will the Supreme Court always play this watchdog, or is another system evolving?
All right. So, ma'am, you need to realize, see, Unitech is the first of the 3. Unitech came to Supreme Court in 2016.
Yeah.
Okay. So that the lead matter is 2016 Bhupinder Singh versus Unitech. JP and Amrapali both were filed in Supreme Court around the same time, July, August 2017, when Insolvency Act had just, Insolvency Code had just come into being in December 2016 onwards. And these were the first real estate project, both Amrapali and JP, which had gone into insolvency.
Yeah.
Right. And because that time the rights of home buyers were not recognized, so they were not recognized either as a financial creditor or as an operational creditor, the home buyers and all their cases filed in different forums were stayed because of the moratorium under Section 14. Writs were filed in both these cases and challenging the provisions of IBC, and that's how the Supreme Court got into being. But after, as Piyush said, after having burnt its finger in these 3 matters, Supreme Court now is extremely reluctant to deal with real estate projects on its own directly. If something comes to it after, availing the hierarchy of appellate forums like NCLT, NCLAT, Supreme Court, then it's obviously dealing with it. Or NCDRC or consumer forums, and then Supreme Court is dealing with it. But not under 32. In my knowledge, after 2018, Supreme Court has not dealt with any 32 petition directly against any of the real estate projects. Or whatever real estate projects, where whatever writ petitions were filed, it has relegated all those petitions to some courts. But on the other hand, you have high courts, as again Piyush pointed out, you have different high courts which are dealing with real estate projects. For example, Asotech is being dealt with by Delhi High Court, or some other projects are dealt with by some other high courts. Like, for example, there's a real estate project in Baroda, where Gujarat High Court is looking into it. There are real estate projects where Allahabad High Court is looking into it. So you have high courts which are looking into it. Supreme Court is not, as far as I know, is not dealing with any of the real writ petitions apart from these big 3 as on date.
Okay. And then Shweta Singh, we are very close to the end of our show. This will be one of the last couple of queries that we take. Shweta Singh is asking, is it possible to get stay from the High Court for action against the bank, although liability of buyer, but the builder had not done construction? Second question, during NCLT, when moratorium period is there, then relief to buyers can be granted in DRT. This is one is when you go to the High Court. The second one is relief to the consumer through DRT. You want to take that, Mihir?
Yeah. See, if you can justify your case, then of course the high courts have got enough power under 226 to grant you whatever relief you're seeking for. Writ petition, writ jurisdiction is extremely wide, but then you have to justify and present your case that you are entitled to relief and your fundamental right or any other legal right is being violated. So if you are able to show that, high courts do have power to grant you interim relief and final relief to save you against any action of the builder and of the banks. insofar as the second question is concerned, if DRT is seized of your matter, then it's very highly unlikely that high courts will go into that issue and will give you a stay. You'll have to, avail the forum of DRT, then DRAT, and then that hierarchy you'll have to go. I mean, again,
Then
obviously,
consumer redressal is your better option.
yes, consumer redressal is your better option, because see, there is already a judgment where banking that MK Gupta versus Lucknow Development Authority, where banking services and real estate projects and several other services were held to be consumer services, and you can approach consumer forums against those things. So, and consumer courts have the widest jurisdiction amongst the lot. So then you can approach consumer court. But again, if DRT has already initiated, I mean, banks have already initiated a proceeding against you in DRT, you'll have to defend yourself there and then maybe file an appeal in DRAT. In that case, I don't think consumer courts will look into your grievances.
Okay. Piyush, you want to answer the same question? I'll put a little addition to it. Kuldeep Munshi asked, but we were told that once cases in Supreme Court, all other cases for refund for NCDRC, RERA or Consumer Forum, they are not relevant for relief of money, right? Now, the same thing is when it goes to the High Court, do all these other cases get suspended, or can, if there are 15 people who've gone to the NCDRC, 20 have gone to NCLT, some have gone to RERA, what happens when the cause goes to the civil system? What happens to all these cases? That's every court declared different judgments?
Jayashree, there's no conflict. All these remedies are very concurrent remedies. I think people are confusing with moratorium, because I think the previous question which was asked, that whether in a moratorium a buyer is still supposed to pay the EMIs.
Yes.
So if I have to answer that, then I will come to the next question. So moratorium, which is the NCLT pronounces under section 14, is only for the corporate debtor. So only the proceedings against the builder would be stopped. So the buyer will not get any relief of the moratorium. So that's very clear. So there's no doubt about it. So you cannot file once a builder company goes into NCLT and an IRP is appointed and moratorium is declared. You can't file any RERA or civil or execution against the thing. Of course, criminal remedies can survive. You can file criminal complaints, EOW against the developer. Now the second question, now if somebody approaches a high court or a group approaches a high court, until and unless the high court or the Supreme Court, now other than the NCLT, only the constitutional court have power to declare moratoriums.
Right.
Now this moratorium term is that other courts will not interfere till the high court is looking for that project. Right. So only in that case it is declared, then only it would be stayed before the consumer courts or RERA. Otherwise, if a group has approached the high court, somebody is free to approach the consumer courts or RERA. There's no doubt about it. So like I would give a very specific example in a Greenopolis project which RERA was supervising. So one of the association approached the RERA authority, and some of the buyers had come to the NCDRC. So there the RERA in one of the orders had requested NCDRC not to order for refund. So it was not a direction but a request not to order for refund. But still, even after that request and the builder had placed that order of RERA before NCDRC, NCDRC still proceeded with refund. So there's no conflict. Every court has concurrent powers and they can deal with it.
Only NCLT has the superseding power.
Once the moratorium is declared.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, and only against the builder. Only against the
Yes,
corporate
moratorium
debtor.
only
The
against the
moratorium only appears, as Piyush said.
Consumer
only
still
against
is liable. And today we're discussing the consumer's liability. The
Yes,
consumer's liability does not ease.
No, it does not cease. Yes.
Yeah.
They are still
And,
liable.
and Sarvesh, as a final reply from you, when we've discussed whether it's better to go to the civil courts or to the NCDRC, you are advocating the NCDRC. So let's hear from you. What is the merit of NCDRC versus civil court?
No, I will like to correct. I am defending the cases in the State Consumer Commission UP.
Yes.
NCDRC, probably Piyush is doing the
Yeah, not NCDRC, the state consumer.
The State Consumer Commission is the best court, because already the similar issues are decided by the National Commission also.
Yeah.
And recently the bench presided by Justice R.K. Agrawal, who is the president of NCDRC, has already passed the order of refund the same order which is the interim order which is passed by the State Commission, the same order has already been passed by the National Commission.
Okay.
So the rights of the consumers, in my opinion, is better protected in the Consumer Court, because already the higher courts, the courts who are higher in hierarchy, has already confirmed the order of the State Consumer Commission. Those similar orders is to be passed by the lower courts. So
If-
it is better to invoke the jurisdiction of the State Consumer Commission,
If the
because you will
State
be
Commission-
secured.
Sorry to interrupt you, but if the State Commission passes an order, does it need ratification by the National Commission before it can be executed?
That the order has already been ratified. It has been confirmed by this National Commission.
Does it have to be ratified every time?
No, not required. Unless and until the order is challenged by the agreed party.
Yeah.
Unless and until it is challenged by the agreed party. In some matters, the order was challenged before the National Commission, and the National Commission rejected the appeal and confirmed the order of the State Consumer Commission.
So
So
what's the
now the
advantage
state-
between a state commission and a national commission? For instance, if I'm a consumer, say in Lucknow, why would I go to the state commission and not the national commission? Why would I go to the national commission?
No.
And not
Now, after the amendment, 2019 amendment has been made applicable from 20th of July 2020. Now, even the person residing in Kolkata or in Mumbai can file the complaint case before the District Consumer Forum Lucknow. The jurisdiction has been increased, the pecuniary jurisdiction has been increased.
Yeah.
Now, the jurisdiction of District Consumer Forum Commission is 1 crore rupees. The State Consumer Commission is from 1 crore to 10 crore rupees.
Yeah.
And now the price which you pay, supposing that you purchase the property of 1 crore and you only paid an amount of rupees 20 lakhs rupees.
Yeah.
So now the amendment, the new act which has come in force says that you can file the case before the District Consumer Forum,
Okay.
and that too where the person is living, either temporarily or permanently, or is working for gain. Presuming I have purchased the property in Mumbai and I am living in Lucknow.
Yeah.
If I want to file the case in Consumer Forum against the builder of Mumbai, I can file it in Lucknow also.
Right.
So now the new act which has come, it is more powerful and it is a more consumer friendly act. We can now invoke the jurisdiction of District Forum where we live or where we work.
How much time does it take to decide?
It usually take 6 to 8 months. We get the judgment within 6 to 8 months. It depends upon the strength of the forum, the vacancies. If the judges are available, the verdict comes within 8 to 10 months. It comes. The verdict comes within 8 to 10.
And what about the National Commission?
National Commission, Piyush will explain better about the National Commission.
Yes.
Although National Commission is also a very good court.
It was relatively the same time, but right now, I would say National Commission, most of the judicial members have recently retired. So that is the difficulty we are facing in National Commission. The time frame has relatively increased in National Commission.
Yeah.
And as the new act, which has been pointed by Mr. Kumar, so again, the same thing has come with respect to the jurisdiction. It is very consumer friendly. So a consumer residing anywhere in the country, irrespective where the property is situated now, he can file the complaint where he's residing right now.
Oh.
So this is a big change in the new Consumer Protection Act.
And if you choose the civil court, suppose the same example that Sarvesh took, that you
Civil
stay in
court is-
Lucknow.
Civil court, I think all lawyers will unanimously agree is a bad option for one primary reason, Jayashree, because you have to pay a court fees on civil suit.
Yeah.
Why would somebody, for example, somebody has to recover, a buyer has to recover 50 lakh rupees. He
Yeah.
will have to pay 4 to 5% depending on the state rules, the court fees on the amount.
Yeah.
Now for a consumer court, the court fees is 2,000, 5,000, which is very nominal. RERA court fees is 1,000 rupees.
Yeah.
But civil suit, the court fee is very high amount. So somebody is blocking already 4 to 5% of his money, and that too he's starting from the district courts. So that is why.
So you go there only if you are a group of buyers who are challenging a serious.
No, another problem. See, as Piyush will agree, another problem is that consumer courts have a summary procedure.
Yeah.
Civil court has a very detailed procedure, so it's bound to take more time.
Thank you so much for joining me. That was a wonderful legal discussion, and I hope that the consumers found it useful. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.